We hope everybody's doing great today. Thank you very much for being here at the Cali Current Podcast with your host, Ish.
And Grimace.
Anyways, so we hope that everybody's going to sit back and relax and enjoy this episode, because there's nothing more enjoyable than talking about what you want to do first when you go to a supermarket, especially if you have to take a big stinking dump. I mean, that's happened to me quite a few times, especially recently, because I've been sort of on the verge of sharding myself, which I don't enjoy at all whatsoever, especially walking around with a big black stain on my pants. Actually, it's funny that yesterday I went to work. I had a sort of a little stain because I sort of peed on myself.
What the?
When I first got to work, and I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me? How come I'm not peeing normally? But whatever. Things happen. Sometimes I can't control it. Sometimes I just rush so fast that I just peed myself. A little bit.
Gosh.
There was a big spot like this on my front of my right leg.
Right. Were you at least nearby home or?
No. I was at work. I was literally going to start work already with the kids. But anyways, this happened to me the other day where I almost, like I said, I almost sharded myself yet again. I was at the local grocery store. I'm not going to say which one because I'm not going to promote them. And I'm like, I'm going to run in there. And I ran in there and I barely made it. I swear, I barely made it. I was lucky that I didn't have to change my underwear. But then after that, I usually go just browsing around. Sometimes I might buy something. Sometimes I might not. But there's two stores that I really love to go into. One with the red circles, that one, and the other one with the big blue letters that starts with a W, and everybody knows what that is. Those are my two favorite stores to actually go walk in there and take a nice long poop.
What kind of store was it?
It was a grocery store. It was a super center. So
I've only taken number 2 at one grocery store. Because first of all, when I go to the grocery store, I'm there to grocery shop. So
yeah,
but that one time that we went to Atlanta, Cali Current in Atlanta, and then I had to use the restroom.
That was a Publix, by the way, and I can say that because we don't have any here in Southern Cali.
It was a Publix. I don't even remember
the Publix. Yeah,
dude,
Publix.
The grocery store in Atlanta was selling fireworks mortars for $25, $24.99. For $25, do you know how much I've paid? $100 for mortars. I mean, I'm just kidding. I paid for them, but I didn't light them up. So don't give me no damn ticket, city. Now that was like back when they were legal. So covering my butt.
Yeah, but no. Well, everything in California is regulated. Everything in California is, especially even the dumps. My dumps. My point is that I've grown up with a phobia. I in high school I never took a dump. In high school whatsoever. I mean, I maybe had the urge to take a dump. But back then when you're in your teens, you could control your bowels a little bit more better than, I'm almost 50. Now I can't control them whatsoever. Now it's like if I have to go, I have to run and get there. If I don't get there, I'm going to be like an old man and shart all over myself. And I'm not talking bad about old men sharting themselves. I'm just being honest that I can't control my bowels. Like today all day, I've been here with the Cali Current Podcast where we shoot at our studio all day, and I've gone to take like 3 or 4 dumps. I'm sorry to say, that's what they are. Public dumps.
That's pretty good. Well, it's not a public dump. This is a private
No. I'm
dump.
just saying that I like to take public dumps now. But
I see.
I was like Finch, and if everybody's ever seen American Pie, the first one, the original one, where Finch basically has to run to the restroom because he had an emergency and he had no choice but to use the restroom. That was me like about a week ago. But my point being is that I avoided using the restroom or number 2s at high school like the plague. I literally never go. I was afraid that somebody was going to walk in and catch me sitting there and, make fun of me. That was my phobia back then.
That's true. You know what? In high school, I don't think I ever took a number 2. I never really had to because I would always time my number 2s at, in the morning. And then if I had to go again by the time I got home. But now that you say that, hey, that's true. Because, I was in sports and, dude, the football team, because we would hang out like almost all day sometimes, like during we would call it Hell Week, whatever, or Heck Week. So we were there like almost the whole day. And so obviously people had the restroom, or whenever we had game days, we would, after school, we would wait till like 7 o'clock by the time we play football. And obviously people would use the restroom. And now that you talk about that, that's true, man. Like, us jocks, whatever, we were over there. Some dudes would go use the restroom, and some guys, man, some jokesters, hey, they would go over there and they would mess with them. They would turn off the lights on them. Sometimes they would throw water on them in the restroom.
Yeah.
Other time they would like, I don't think we had cell phones yet, but they were like make fun of them and like I think take pictures. We had like pixelated crappy phones. But yeah, hey, everything that you were talking about, I'm pretty sure it never happened to you. But in our locker room, the football, we would joke around. Some guys, actually not me, some guys would joke around too hard and they would do all that crazy stuff you're scared of. They would do it. And it was crazy.
Okay, and I'm not being 100%.
It's funny though, but it was scary.
Okay, well, the word of the day is relative. And that's what all this is about. It's all relative.
Like relative, like you're my relative, or relative, like what you mean?
Relative, like the actual definition of relative. All this is appropriate. All this is it's relating to what we're talking about in terms of how times change, especially because back then I did take the opportunity to never use the restroom. Well, to do number 2, especially during the day when the class was fully in session. Maybe I might be lying a little bit where I possibly found a private restroom in somewhere, or made sure it was always after school, or I always made sure that I was, because I was in school all day myself too. I was in school. I had 0 periods. So I always left if I went walking at 6:30 in the morning, and then I would be at school till like 6:30 in the afternoon because I was always in sports.
Damn, from 6 to 6?
Yeah. And well,
That's
the only
all
time
day.
that I used the restroom publicly was either after school when there was no kids whatsoever around in the public area of the school, and also in public parks if we had a meet somewhere, because we usually had meets at public parks.
When you were in school, did you guys have a space camp? We called it Astro Camp. I think it was elementary. Did you guys have like an Astro Camp? I know that's like a thing nowadays. Some of my friends, they tell me, oh, my kid, the ones that have elementary kids, they're like, oh, they're going to space camp. Did you guys have because for me, that was the first time that I had to deal with that issue. Like, man, I was to this day, I remember I was elementary school, like 5th grade. I remember like, we would actually spend the night in the woods or whatever in Astro Camp. Not the woods, but it was located in the woods.
How old were you? In what grade?
5th grade.
I taught outdoor science school, so I know what that means.
Yeah, so they called it Astro Camp, and I'd do like space and science, and we'd go see the stars. Yeah. That's why I was in the forest. And that was the first time where I kept holding the restroom number 2 because I was not used to using public restroom number 2. And I don't know if I did use a restroom, but that was the first time that I think I probably had to go, and I was forced to go number 2 because I was, in the school, in the Astro Camp, and I remember that to this day, like holding it so long. Number 2, I was like, oh, I gotta go. I was even uncomfortable. It's to the point that I was uncomfortable, but I had to go. And
I was mostly embarrassed more than anything, or like I said, phobic. I was phobic about using the restroom at school, especially during my high school years. Probably I didn't care about it as much, and I'm not a person. I'm not one to be embarrassed a lot easily. I mean, my friends call me weird names all the time. I have a lot of nicknames, by the way. Eventually, we're going to talk about the topics of nicknames and why people come up with stupid names. That's on a different topic. But my friends at school,
what do they call you?
Neighbors. We're not going to get into it right now, but eventually we're going to talk about it. But it is pretty embarrassing. I'm not one to get embarrassed all the time.
Well, as you know, they call me Grimace.
Yeah, but that's not a bad nickname. They call me... Okay, look, I'm going to be honest with you. One time I had a blue polo that said Camel. The words camel, like the cigarettes, Camel.
Oh, Camel. I was going to say camouflage or Camel?
No, Camel. And from then on, my friends started calling me Camel for no freaking reason other than I wore that stupid shirt once when I went out to run cross country or whatever, because I was in cross country and track. But my point is, all 4 years I was in 0 period. If I wasn't in band, I had 0 period or something. I was always at school regardless. I was at school like 12 hours a day during my whole high school career or whatever. That's why I guess I developed an embarrassment, because I guess my friends traumatized me by calling me Camel, and it's like I was afraid that they're going to start calling me, I don't know, cagador or something. Yeah. Cagador or something, cagón or something. I don't know, whatever the Spanish term may be.
For translation, that means pooper, like pooper, but like big pooper, like cagón.
Well, or in English, we're gonna just say something to embarrass me.
Excessively pooping person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like whatever. But my point is that I wasn't somebody to easily get embarrassed, but my friends helped add to that. Starting my freshman year, and I became phobic because of them. But the point being is that I was just embarrassed in general. I always find the time to poop whenever somebody was not around. I made sure nobody was around, and I try to hurry up as fast as I can. And I'm gonna recount a story too about in 2001 ish. Yeah, about 2001, I went into a woman's restroom at
Oh
a
my
big
gosh.
in a big building in Newport Beach because I was driving and I drank a lot of soda. I always ate on the go. I always ate bad fast food or whatever, pizzas, burgers, whatever. And I always drank a lot of soda, especially the 64 ounce.
Oh, the big gulp.
The super
double
gulps.
gulp.
Yeah,
double
whatever
gulp.
it's called, double gulps. I had them in my car all the time. And one time I literally didn't even pay attention. I ran into the women's restroom. But good thing that no woman went into that female restroom or else I would have been caught.
Damn. So you use a restroom, and when did you realize that?
When I got out, I'm like, what the heck? There's no stalls in here. There's no urinals or whatever. And it's like, there's only stalls. I'm in the wrong restroom. And I only noticed because when I walked out, I saw that it was a woman's restroom. And actually, that happened to me yesterday. I almost walked into the women's restroom.
Oh my God. That happened to me before too. I walked into the women's restroom. I don't remember if there was females in there already. And I was like, oh crap. I realized it because I was walking to the restroom. I was like, wait, why is there no urinals? I only see like the toilet stalls. I was like, oh crap. And then I realized
Doesn't make
and I
sense,
got out.
yeah. So what goes with it too is, especially now that I'm almost 50 and I don't care where I take a dump. I mean, I'll go I drive the big two rideshare companies, right? And sometimes in the middle of the night when I don't have anybody in the car and I'm actually summoned to pick somebody up already. It's all relative, right? The word of the day, relative, and that I will have to use the restroom really badly, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'll stop by on the side of the road, and I'll just let it loose, and I'll pee because I take 2 or 3 pees a night, especially if I'm drinking water or any type of liquid. And I don't care, especially if I don't have a rider or sometimes the last time that actually I had a male rider and I really had to pee bad, I said, hey, sorry, but I really have to. I know I picked you up, but I really have to pee, and I didn't have a chance to go right now.
Damn.
He was okay with it.
He was okay with it. Where'd you go?
He was a male. I just went on the side of the road somewhere in the
On
neighborhood.
the side of the road?
I had to. I was going to let it loose. If not, I was going to pee myself.
Hey, all jokes aside, that's illegal. That's a ticket.
I know that. That's why I try to go somewhere where there's no houses around or no cameras.
I'm sure you did it in a state where it's legal, right?
Here in California.
Oh, okay.
It's not legal.
You know what? A good thing to do is what I just thought about one time when I had to do that. Well, no, I didn't do that. Never mind. Is if you're using the restroom or number 2, whatever, you got to go fast in emergency. If you throw up, it's okay to throw up, but it's not okay to pee. So throwing up is okay. Pee is not.
It's not okay to pee anywhere because technically you're committing indecent exposure, and that's the law. And especially if you go I heard that there's a special circumstance where if you pee near a school or anywhere near a school or where there's kids around, especially during the day, that's called public indecency law or something like that. Where
you got to register as a sex offender.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But point being is that now that I'm almost 50 and I have to go, I'll either pick a store that I like, and I'll make sure that, especially now since I'm driving people during the day or whatever the case may be, I'll go in between driving people, and I'll make sure that I'll go to my favorite store of the 2 stores that I go to, and I'll take one nice, good one, and then I'll just enjoy the rest of the 5-10 minutes walking around looking at stuff.
That actually did happen to me and one of my friends. I don't want to put him on blast, but yeah, it was back in our bar hopping days. We were in downtown Fullerton, DTF. If any of you know, downtown Fullerton
DTF stands for 2 different things. And everybody knows what DTF stands for, besides downtown Fullerton.
But downtown Fullerton in Southern California is it's a great bar scene. If you're into bar hopping, it's a great place to have a drink and have a good time, meet some fun people. So we were pre-gaming there. We went, and long story short, we were using the restroom in a parking, what do you call it? The parking in a parking structure.
Parking structure? Okay.
A motorcycle cop somehow caught us. I was peeing on one side of the corner. My friend was peeing on the other side, and he got us both. The motorcycle cop, long story short, gave us tickets, and we went to court, and then luckily the judge dropped it.
Were you guys minors?
No, we were like 21 because we were going bar hopping.
That's right.
But he told us too, he's like, all right, just pay the ticket.
It's all relative anyway.
Yeah, but he told us that too, like you were saying, like, Because, okay, downtown Fullerton is within a certain amount of miles of Fullerton High School or Fullerton College.
Well,
That's
you're
my alma
close.
mater.
You're like not even like 3/4 of a mile, basically.
Very close, less than a
Yeah.
mile. So then, but the judge, he was a real, he was really understandable. That's the kind of judge you say, hey, thank you, honorable, whatever. He was understandable. Well, yeah, understanding, because we took a piss, but it's not like we were exposing ourselves to, like, school children, but it was downtown Fullerton. But he was reasonable. He's like, you know what? Just pay the fine, and I'm not going to,
No
put you
extra,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, none of that indecent
Indecency,
exposure
yeah.
or whatever. And we're like, damn, we could have got, like, registered as a sex offender. Like, fool, we didn't even do that. We were just taking a piss. I mean, which I get it. If everyone takes a piss wherever they want, then the place is going to smell like Skid Row in Los Angeles, which I get it. That sucks too right there.
Well, I mean, the point is, or the fact is that, yeah, don't ever do that. If you have to go to the restroom, try to do it somewhere remotely where there's no houses around. I try to do it somewhere where there's like an open space, and I know that it's not going to be like either a street camera or a public camera, a Ring doorbell camera in front of somebody's house, and get me going, because yeah, that could, I mean, they're not gonna see my face maybe, but they're probably gonna see my car and my license plate or whatever the case may be.
Or a good thing also nowadays, I mean, it's a weird thing to talk about, but take it with you. Like, if you have to use a restroom, put it in a receptacle, and then that way you could take the receptacle and dispose of it in a responsible way. That way, because then, yeah, I get it. If everyone pees wherever they want, then it's gonna start smelling. Like, if someone peed in my front yard, I would be pretty pissed. Like, hey man, it smells like pee right there. It smells like poop right there. I mean, living in Santana, there's people that have pooped just by the car wash. I was like, really? Like, what the heck? But yeah, if everyone did it, then the place is gonna smell pretty poopy.
Let me recount a story. When I used to drive, going all the way to Phoenix, Arizona, it was a 5-hour ride at the very most. And I used to go at all odd hours, especially I used to go past midnight. Sometimes I had to be there like at 6 a.m. to start work. And I had to leave here at midnight, actually, because, like I said, it was a 5-hour drive. Now that it's summertime, or today's the first day of summer, or sorry, we have the summer solstice, or there's daylight savings. In Arizona, they don't observe daylight savings. They don't change the time. Because they passed a law about 10 years ago where they're not going to observe daylight savings any longer. So they stay an hour behind, and I would have to leave an hour early on my end, because if not, I was going to be late to work. But one time I was driving past midnight, and I had to use the restroom, like going through the desert like at 2 a.m, and I literally didn't want to stop because I was in the middle of climbing the mountain into the desert going towards Arizona and off the 10 freeway, and I literally had to go really badly, and I couldn't pull over to the side of the road because it's really dangerous, especially in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. And I had to get whatever I had. I think I had a commuter mug, and I had to pee in there. Well, actually, it was a plastic cup from one of those plastic cups that you get from the stores. And it's like, I did it in there, but I splashed it all over myself, and I had to change myself.
Gosh.
I had to change myself when I got to work because I literally couldn't. I literally had to go really badly. And sometimes when those emergencies come up, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's nature. It's like an awkward situation and topic. But yeah, everyone has to do it on the daily. Or, I mean, you should at least on the daily go. But for the statistics, public restroom use, according to the Bradley Corp survey, which is brought to you by ScienceDirect.com, 60% of people use a public restroom 1 to 5 times a week. 27% use them to escape and use emotional breaks, which I could relate. Like, there's this is one thing I took for granted. When I use a public restroom, like in the airport or a Las Vegas casino, I remember one time using the number 2 in a Las Vegas casino. It was really nice because casinos, they got that cash. It was really nice. But I could hear all like the commotion. There's a lot of people using it. So for me, it was kind of like hard to go, but I went nonetheless. But there was a time at one of my friend's house, I went and she had cats, and they had the cat litter in there.
Oh.
Yeah, and me personally, I'm allergic to cats. And then, not that I smelled the cat's litter, but like it wasn't a place of refuge. And I even told her, like, damn, like I'm allergic to cats and I could deal with cats, but having the cat litter in the restroom, I was like, you know what? I'm used to when I use the restroom, like being like a nice, calm, serene place. And yeah, the cat litter in there did not help. It was like, it made me appreciate all the other times I used the restroom at whether it be a casino. I mean, well, the casino was a little bit noisy, but it was extremely clean. But at my own home, like it's like a sanctuary, like a rest time.
Yeah.
Like it just feels good,
Yeah.
like just chilling. I mean, obviously I don't want to chill too long either, because one time I went to the doctor and, damn, I don't want to give you guys my personal information, but the doctor was saying like, hey, don't sit on the toilet too long because then you could develop hemorrhoids if you sit there too long.
Urine sample?
Your sample. I know I'm giving over here too much information.
You're right, but
yeah, you don't want to sit there too long.
But you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, look, sometimes, well, I'm not gonna out myself either, but yeah, I think of it as a refuge myself because
it is.
I
really
go in
is.
there and then
and I didn't know that until I was in the cat litter one. Like, damn.
But it was a wafting with cat litter. Look, that's not glamorous whatsoever. If you have, I get it. You do it for your cat because you want it to be in the bathroom. Yeah. But it's not glamorous when you have guests over and you want them to use the restroom, but it smells like cat litter. That's not glamorous.
It's not even that it smelled like the cat poop or pee. It's just that I think me personally, since I'm allergic to cats, right away I noticed like I'm uncomfortable. Like, and it's weird though, because I have dogs. I mean, I don't know if you guys seen the other episode, Oreo. She's the kind of like, well, her Oreo's dad is the long hair Dashan. So Oreo has hair. So she's not like the thin hair Dashan.
Yeah.
So she has hair, but it doesn't affect me the same way like a cat hair does. Like, I don't know. It just, I don't enjoy it. I'm not as serene as far as using the restroom.
So yeah, so every time I go into the restroom, especially if I'm like 2 seconds away from sharding myself, I go in there all stressed out, and I have no choice but to just let loose. And honestly, I feel better when I'm done, because if I don't do it, or if I hold it a little bit longer, it's not good for the colon either. Let me just give an example. I used to live with my brother and his wife, and they had a renter before I moved in. And the renter, unfortunately, he passed away from colon cancer.
Damn.
Because he was a truck driver, and he always held the peas and the poops or whatever.
Oh, he would hold them?
Because, and I guess over time that affected him, and I guess it eventually, that wasn't the main cause, but possibly one of the main factors as to why he got that colon cancer. But he was already in his late 60s, I think. And because he was a truck driver and he used to hold it too long, he passed away from that because it was bad for him.
My grandma, or the one that we both share, she would always tell me too. She's like, don't hold it. Like, if you gotta go, you gotta go. Don't hold it. And she would make that thing, and I was like, that's why I always knew. Like, I try not to hold it.
So I always felt way better afterwards, and that's why I gave myself an extra 5 to 10 minutes just to walk around and just to try to relax my sphincter. That should have been the word of the day, sphincter, right there. If everybody knows what a sphincter is. But anyways, no, it's all relative. The point is that. That's the word of the day right there, actually. And the point being is that it's better once you relieve yourself, because that's what it is. You're relieving yourself. It's called, I call it pump and dump and whatever, because you technically sometimes have to push. Even though I'm sitting there and nothing's coming out, I have to push it. It's not good for you to push either, but sometimes I have to, because I don't want to let it affect me later on, like at another different time or something. I don't want to hold it again for another hour or so and I have to go again. So I'd rather just get out of the way. So the best thing that I like about certain restrooms, it depends on the company or it depends on the entity you go to, is that they have almost the restrooms from top to bottom covered. Sometimes you don't get those, especially like in airports, where in Mexico City, yes, all the restrooms in Mexico City are basically almost top to bottom covered, that there's literally nobody can put their arm under there already. And it just depends on the place, but it's better for me to have everything covered, because I hear that once somebody does, I guess gay people want to ask for sex from somebody, they do something where they put their arm underneath the stall or something, or they ask, I don't know, there's a certain gesture, but that's just what I've learned. But I prefer to go to the restrooms where the stalls are basically almost completely covered. Sometimes I don't have a choice and I have to grin and bear it. But the pet peeve that I have when I go to the restroom is that I don't know why a lot of these places are catering to a small group of people, meaning handicapped people and people that are possibly in wheelchairs, and that they're putting the toilet dispenser all the way basically at 2 feet from the floor, because people might have a bad back, and that's a bad thing, because it's like not a lot of people can bend over. Or what would happen if a 6'5" person goes to the restroom there, and they have to basically bend down on their knees or crouch just to get a piece of TP. I mean, what if somebody has a bad back? The same reason goes for other reasons. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a good thing for these entities to put the TP dispenser all the way down at 2 feet from the floor?
I mean, I'm not too sure. Do you even know why they have them so low? Because I've seen that.
That started happening like maybe 2 years onward until today, because that was never really the case. For some reason, I don't know if there was something that, 'cause honestly, I don't know. I don't know why all of a sudden all these companies. I get that we have to cater to disabled people, especially to people that are in wheelchairs, and that's why there's a bigger stall at the end of every entity to cater to, for them to move around and maneuver. But really, I mean, not everybody uses a wheelchair. It's like there's more people that use the restrooms that are public in terms of normal people that aren't, disabled or have any type of uncapability to, stand up and just grab the paper.
Yeah, you're right. According to the Google AI, which Google AI uses a lot of different sources to get their information, it says toilet paper dispensers are often placed low in public restrooms, primarily due to accessibility guidelines outlined in the Americans with Disability Act. It specifies mounting heights that ensure individuals with disabilities, including those in wheelchairs, can easily reach the dispenser, which you want to cater to them. But you know what? They've actually taken advantage. I mean, I'm not, all respect.
Not to disparage to everybody that has to,
All respect to people in wheelchairs. I mean, I've had uncles that are in wheelchairs due to motorcycle accidents and whatnot. And, I've had broken legs too. I had broken legs and a messed up knee before where, I was not unable to walk. But yeah, one time someone did try to take advantage of the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, and that was messed up. It was this guy. He came to our workplace, mechanic auto shop, and over here in Santa Ana, parking is a big issue. So, the business is always busy, so there's limited parking space. So apparently this customer came and he couldn't park because there's no parking on the street, and the driveway, thanks to the Lord, there's a lot of business. There's no parking. So then next thing you know, the boss shows us and tells us like, hey, this guy is trying to sue me because I didn't have a handicap parking for him to park. But let alone, there's no parking for anybody. Correct. Whether you're handicapped or not handicapped, there's no parking. That's just the way it is in Santa Ana in Southern California. Parking is so hard, like in the cities. So
especially in LA, in downtown LA.
Yeah, you know what? I think Santa Ana is like an LA, like it's like LA, but just in a smaller size versus Los Angeles is ginormous Santa Ana. That's kind of how I see it. So there's no parking here. So long story short, he was suing the business, saying, hey, you didn't make a parking for disability people. So from the ADA, and he also happened to do that to the auto body shop, which is down the street. He wanted
to get a payday, basically.
Yeah, he would do that. Like, and then his attorney would say, hey, if you don't want to go to court, pay us this amount, we'll settle out. And he did the same thing with the company, the auto body shop down the street. And then the auto body guy told the boss, like, hey, man, look at this guy's doing the same thing to us. And we're like, dude, this guy's just trying to scheme on people, and that's messed up.
Yeah.
So long story short, we're like, the boss says like, all right, let's go. You want to go to court? Let's go. And then long story short, he didn't follow through with it, but he was trying to take advantage of it, which that's messed up for people taking advantage of it. I get it though too. One of my relatives also works in like civil engineering, so that they make like the sidewalks. Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, we got to do construction to make the ramps, which I get it. Like if you're on a wheelchair and you want to use the bus and you want to travel, then you gotta your wheelchair has to be able to cross the street. But honestly, how many wheelchair people do you see on the public streets? Not too many, honestly.
Well, it's just, and not look, we don't disrespect anybody. We respect everybody as a people, as groups, as anything that we want to be classified as, because like I said, it's all relative. Yeah. And point being is that there's nothing wrong with catering to a certain amount of group. The point is that there's more people that are overwhelmingly not part of that group, that they're going to cater only to that small specific group. It's not really fair, actually, and that's sort of a bad thing, because also too, we recently went to the Angels game to just relax, and that's why we have our jerseys or tank tops because it's summertime, first day of summer. We're sporting them, or not the first day of summer, but the beginning of summer. I mean, and it's like it's also the same thing where we see that there's a lower urinal everywhere we go, and then there's a urinal. Let me say it again at I guess normal level, whatever, 4 feet off the ground, or I don't know if 3 feet off the ground, I guess. And that's fine because there's always one for maybe for kids or whatever the case may be.
Oh, yeah, I seen those.
And it's like we're not going to make every single little teepee stall, toilet paper dispenser holder, whatever, at 2 feet because not everybody can bend down. And that's just, you're catering to one group to basically alienate everybody else that's going to have issues or whatever the case is. But I've also seen where urinals are too high because not everybody's 6'5" and 7 feet high, and you can't even reach the darn urinal because I'm not gonna get up on a stool like a little kid.
And you see them when they're too high?
Exactly. Oh,
I've never seen any too high.
Definitely, yeah. and well, now it's like we're living in the sign of the times, right? You know, we have to make restrooms technically unisex, but at work where I work right now, and I'm not gonna say the name of the school, they have 2 bathrooms. One of them is for women only, which is fine because it says women only, and the other one is unisex. But the bad thing about that is that men can only use that one, which is fine. But sometimes there's women in there that are taking their sweet time, and it's like, well, that's not fair, because it's like if I have to go really bad and these ladies are just in there, you know, checking their makeup or just being on their phone. I don't know what women do inside the restrooms, right? And it's like that's not fair. You know, that women get 2 restrooms and only get 1 restroom. That's sort of not fair.
But you know what? It kind of balances out because usually whenever there's a restroom, I've noticed there's a line for the women's restroom versus the men's restroom is like usually there's less of a line. Like sometimes I even see like the line is so long for women's restroom, and then a woman will be like, "Hey, I gotta go. Is it okay if I go in there?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, go ahead, go." You know, they give in front of the lunch line pass or in front of the restroom pass.
See, and it's sort of a double standard where, let's say, you just mentioned, right? Or back in the day when we used to go to clubs, because I see it sometimes in movies, and especially like in my favorite movie to watch that's a romantic comedy. I don't like rom-coms.
Rom-com.
Fools Rush In with Matthew Perry. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Sorry, rest in peace. Sorry, I meant to say that. Not this, not quotations. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. He is passed, but
that's the guy from Friends, the actor.
Yeah, Salma Hayek. And that's one of the movies, a great example if you ever watch that, where
the president hit on Salma Hayek and she rejected him.
Good, because yeah,
I heard that cheese man recently.
Well, yeah, I heard that too. And he's waiting for the restroom, and she literally walks up. He's like, "Oh, can I get in front of you?" And he lets her, and that's how they met. But it's not fair that women can go into any guy's restroom and we'll be okay with it, but we can't use any women's restroom at all because we're all of a sudden we're a sexist pig. And that we're being, you know, nasty and we're dirty, and that all we want to do is see women, you know, naked or whatever. That's a double standard right there.
It is, but then you have those the trans people. I mean, not to single out the trans people, but I don't think that's right that they use the women's restroom because they identify as a female. Like that's not acceptable because then they'll be going in there. So
speaking about trans, actually, I was just literally at the transgender female, I don't know her name because she was been in the news here in California. I literally just went to that high school to drop off one minor. She was actually a minor that went to that school, and then I picked up another minor. But another thing too, since I'm telling a little bit of rideshare stories here and there, that when I went to drop off this person, of course they were both minors because I dropped off one minor and then I picked up another minor. It's like females, don't be afraid of answering your phone, especially if you're under 21. If somebody's calling you, especially from a rideshare company like me, like I'm a driver, always make sure you try to answer that phone. I get it. People are afraid of public speaking to anybody, especially stranger danger. But us drivers are trying to make sure that we can find you and locate you, because when you text somebody and they don't answer, it's one thing. But when you call them and they still don't answer, and then it's your fault that you can't locate them, whose fault is it then? Mine or theirs? Because a lot of younger minors that are under 21 or 18 actually won't answer my call because they're afraid to speak, period. It's like, okay, well, I'm trying to pick you up. I'm trying to perform a service to make sure I can locate you and make sure I take you home safely. And I'm only saying that because that's at that school where I literally, that transgender person was in the news here in California about, winning CIF or whatever in the women's divisions when he was identifying as a female, but he grew up as a male. Point is that I went to the high school to pick up those two people, but I'm recounting the story that people, don't be afraid of answering your call when an Uber driver is trying to pick you up. We have a certain amount of time frame to pick you up, and then if you don't answer, then we're going to assume that you are not interested in getting the ride anymore. And I'm just correlating two different things in one little action. Yeah. Don't forget, it's all relative, okay? But
and speaking about relative,
yeah.
Okay, so the actual definition of the word of the day, relative, is considered in relation or in proportion to something else.
Yeah.
So when you use it like a family thing, like considered in relation, relation, relative.
Correct.
Or relative, like the other definition of it, is in proportion to something else, like
correct.
relative.
But that's what I said. It's all relative because it's in proportion to everything else that I've been discussing. That's why I said it's all relative, and I think I did say that at the beginning in relation. So I'm not a bad person. I'm a professional. Just so everybody knows, if anybody ever gets me on a ride, I'm not going to be that famous where you're going to see me out and about every day. I try to be a private person as much as possible. I only work because I have to, because if I don't work these two rideshare companies, I'm basically not going to eat. I mean, I'm not going to make my ends meet. And right now, it's, times are getting harder. He actually made a point earlier that we make between $30 to $40 an hour, which is not true. I'm more closer, and I don't know if it has to do with the rideshare apps, but I'm more closer to making between 20 and 25 miles per hour. So please be mindful,
miles
be respectful. No, $25 an hour. Dollar per hour. Sorry.
The artificial intelligence ChatGPT was saying they make between 30 and 40.
That's probably not in California, and that's not me because I don't make that money.
And then it was minus the time you have to wait. Like how you were saying,
Correct.
It's not nice to make them wait because
correct. So be considerate, everybody,
money.
Because time is money, and I'm making less than $25. And don't forget that we still have to put maintenance into our vehicles, and tires aren't cheap or free or anything like that. And we have to do the maintenance on the cars ourselves, and they're our vehicles. They're nobody else's. And they don't help us with that. They take more pieces of the pie every single day. Now I'm probably getting not even 30%, and they're getting 70%. So basically on a $100 trip, I'll probably might make $28, $30 at the very most, $33 at maximum, and they're going to take the rest for $100. So it's not fair. Don't make us wait, please. Please be considerate.
And you know what? Depending where you're watching it from, like say you're in India or in some foreign country, that's a lot. But see, the thing is, the cost of living out here in Southern California, like we got to pay for insurance on the vehicle. We got to pay for registration. And all of that stuff in California is like way more expensive than other states. Like other states.
No pun intended. It's uber cheap. Sorry,
Uber
expensive. Cheap. Uber expensive, I mean.
Yeah.
But my point is that in Mexico, it's actually, for me, it's cheap because if we correlate everything in relativity, and we make sure that we make a certain amount of that's how I correlate everything, right? I spend so much money, I'm gonna have to work 4 hours to make up that money or whatever, And the way I see it is that in Mexico, a ride over there can be 100 pesos, which is nothing for us. That's like $5.
Damn.
Especially from the other side of town to the airport, which is on the other side of town, and that 100 pesos, $5. That's super cheap.
Yeah.
A trip like that here in the U.S. would cost us $100, which is $100.
Damn, yeah, $100. And I mean, $100 is a lot of money, but then again, in Southern California, it doesn't go too far. That's like one date night. That's like after you pay all our bills. I mean, McDonald's is almost like $18 a meal, basically. Like, dude, out here in Southern California, we got to work hard. We got to make money.
I just spent $21 on breakfast on a Mexican meal earlier today, and I had my favorite. Chilaquiles, green ones.
Were they crunchy or soggy?
No, they were crunchy, but
I like them crunchy.
But they're
soggy's good too, though.
They're not 100% authentic because they put chips in there that are crunchy. It's not 100% authentic, in my opinion.
Yeah, when they add the chips
cheating
to make
there.
it, yeah, there you go. That's cheating.
So it's like, I don't know if it was worth the $14 that I paid plus taxes, and the $5 horchata that I drank up, and I got a second one for $2.50. So technically, the way I see it, I cut it in half. I had 2 horchatas for $3.50 each.
Yeah, so we went from the supermarket stalls to the intersections and the aid of annoyance. I mean, at work, I'm gonna tell, just to mess around, I'm gonna tell the boss, hey, let's put the toilet paper way up high. Because imagine if you're Shaquille O'Neal Or like, dude, I've had sciatica before. That's like a really bad, horrendous back pain. It's like the worst back pain ever. And I can only imagine trying to get the toilet paper that low. Or if you're a 6'5" tall person like Shaquille O'Neal, like, damn, dude, reaching down for the toilet paper like that low, like that'll be horrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, sometimes it doesn't hurt my back, but sometimes even though if I'm bending down to get that, I mean, you have to do it so many times because you're not gonna go there once and you're done, right? With one and done. Sometimes I have to bend down 10, 15 times because it just depends. Sometimes I get very dirty and I have no choice. I have to clean myself, right? And I like being super clean. I don't like to smell like anything or anything
Heck
like
no.
that.
Oh, but one last shout out. You know what? We were kind of like, I mean, all respect to people with disabilities. I can imagine how hard life is with a disability. But one thing I do enjoy about the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, the restrooms on the handicap one, obviously, if there's no handicap people, then it's free range. The handicap restrooms are always spacious, so you have more space.
Oh, for that reason, so the wheelchair can fit in there.
Yeah, versus
so they can maneuver around in case they have trouble or something.
Yeah, versus
and you realize they have the handrails too, you know.
Oh, well, I don't use the handrails, but versus the regular ones are really thin, but the handicap ones, yeah, they're spacious. Like, and like I was telling you, when I use a restroom, it's nice to feel like, you know, like serene, you know, a place of like calmness. And that extra space does help.
Okay, look, and I respect everybody no matter what.
Yeah, we respect.
Car,
we respect
everybody.
Yeah.
We're humans. We have to live through a
lot
of things, all of us.
Yeah.
But out of all the times that I've been in a big stall where it's a handicap stall, of course, naturally, I've only been kicked out of a stall by somebody in a wheelchair once.
Oh my gosh!
Out of all the years that I've gone to public restrooms, because I get that, you know, I'm using their stalls. Sometimes I prefer the bigger stall because it's just out of convenience. But in reality, one time of my whole lifetime, I've been kicked out of a wheelchair stall because I feel bad. I'm not going to do that to somebody on a wheelchair either. So I did it, and I had to grin and bear it. And, you know, when the other stall became available, I went to their stall. There was other stalls. My point is that I'm going to show my armpits right now because it's a movement right now that women can show their armpits nowadays, and they're full of hair now. So if women are not taking care of their hairy pits anymore, I'm going to show mine now too.
Oh my.
But you know, women on social media are making it a point that they're going to be proud with their hairy pits. And I'm not talking about Brad Pitt. I'm talking about hairy pit.
I literally just took a glance at his hairy pit. Oh my gosh.
It's not that hairy. Actually, I've been losing hair. They used to be hairier when I was back in high school. Actually, I have no more hair on my legs either. One day I'm going to show everybody.
Well, that's life, everybody.
It disappeared. It's gone. And, all my, I mean, it's getting singed off. All my, you know, whatever. They're called bellos in Espanol. In Spanish, bellos, hairs, or whatever.
Well, on that, I'm going to lean like a cholo. Thank you for everybody for watching.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Cali Current Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. That's a smell for you. Take care.
Peace out, everybody.